The Yankees sweep the Angels. Anthony Volpe's doing better than you think. And who's on the Yankees all quarter century team? Because we're 25 years into this century. So you'll find that all out next on a live edition of Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias, and with me as usual, my co-host Brian McKeon. Brian, a sweep.
Yeah, a sweep. Get this. Starting pitchers for the Yankees gave up one earned run in the entire series.
See, that's crazy. We're going to talk about that because what a performance by Clarke Schmidt. On today's show, we'll preview... no, we're not going to preview. Sorry. But that's the note from last night. We're going to do the all quarter century Yankee team according to The Athletic. No real big surprises on that team, by the way. We're going to discuss Anthony Volpe doing better than everyone thinks. But first, let's talk about that final game in Anaheim. Clarke Schmidt, can we just say?
Yeah, needed
nice
this for him.
Exactly. He needed
real bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
A real bounce back. And I love what I saw out of him in this game. He really looked awesome throughout the entire time. Again, the fact that since they played Colorado and LA, again, not a barn burner of teams to go after though.
Right.
But Stacey, one loss now, 5-1 to start the road trip. You can't give a better sign before going into the Dodgers. One earned run given up. It was only the Ryan Yarbrough run, and even he had a really good start. Just unbelievable out of the Yankees. The bullpen looked really good throughout the series, even though it was criminally mismanaged. I love what I saw out of them. Really, I mean, this is the best stretch they've looked all year. Now, again, it's the Rockies and the Angels, but this is the best they've looked at for a stretch all year.
But aren't we always talking about how they need to win close games like this? And, you know, given their opponents, they've won a few close games during these two series to bump that record up, because at one point it was 5-10 in one-run games, and now they're doing better than that because they've won a few in this stretch.
Yeah, and again, like the only thing that bothers me is Mark Leiter Jr. shouldn't have been in this spot. Yeah, he shouldn't have been forced to get this save, but he pitched well, got through it. And seeing gutty performances out of the bullpen, seeing starters finish their outings and not give up a lazy late run in the 5th or 6th inning. But those are important things, and they're things that you're gonna need in the latter months of the season. These wins, if they lost this game tonight, we would have all sat here and said, they beat the Angels. They took 2 out of 3. They've won both series of the road trip. It's fine. Now they go on to LA. We would have been fine and satisfied with that. But like we always say, these wins count in October. They do. These wins are still going to matter. So this is an important win, right? It's an important game. It's an important win, and it's to be able to take the lead even further in the division that they have. So key, because again, it's more games the teams behind you were chasing. So I love what I've seen out of them on this road trip. I really have.
I have a question for you. You said you didn't think Mark Leiter should have been in there in that situation. Who should have been?
Oh, no. They had no option but to use him.
Because of the other moves too. Okay, that's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah. This is a screw up that's gone back to the start of the week.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you meant. Okay. So the only offense really for the Yankees that led to scoring was Volpe's sac fly. There were other hits in the game, but the Yankees couldn't really get anything going against Kikuchi or the bullpen. Kikuchi only lasted 5 innings. Schmidt went 6. I was kind of surprised about that. So he basically went toe-to-toe with Kikuchi, because I've said this a few times on the show already. The Yankees seem to have issues with Kikuchi sometimes, and today was one of those days where they had, or tonight.
Yeah. They were not able to hit. The offense overall never really got going, to be honest with you. And the Volpe sac fly, we're going to talk about it in segment 2, but it is interesting because it's felt like a lackluster year for Anthony Volpe. It hasn't felt like he's dominated or been great, but if you dive into his numbers, which we're going to do for you in segment 2, he's been a heck of a lot better than many people think.
Yeah. Let's move on to the bullpen. Not that many guys were used in the bullpen, but Ian Hamilton looking a lot better than that stretch that he had where he didn't look good for a couple of outings, and since then he's looked better. 1 2/3 innings, 2 strikeouts. Tim Hill came in to pitch that last out of the inning and got a ground out, the bottom of the 8th, and then, as you said, Leiter Jr. was in there in the 9th. I said on Blue Sky, not sure about this, and then he had 1 walk and 2 Ks. I'll take that. No runs. Good job.
I do. I said this last year when they traded for Mark Leiter Jr. I love the gutsiness that he has. Now, I will admit, he does give you the shakes for sure. Like he does freak you out a little bit when he's out there because there are some nerve-wracking moments. He's definitely got a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah.
But he's got a I don't know what the terminology I want to use here is, but he's got I guess a stomach made of steel, right? He just goes out there and doesn't care about the situation, is very stoic, and that's a valuable thing. I think if he gets rolling throughout the season again, that's a weapon that's really useful in the postseason. You see it throughout the entire 9th inning last night. The strike 3 call, what's your take in the last out?
Well, we're going to show everyone right now that little number 5, that is where strike 3 was on Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen worse. There was a horrible call in the Reds game today where a clear strike was called the ball. I mean, it was so in the zone that I don't understand how the ump screwed that up. So this is less egregious than that.
I think this is one of those situations where, because if you're watching it live, it looked like strike 3.
Right.
Now maybe I'm watching that with pinstripe glasses, but it did look like strike 3 live, and it was one of those where you see it on the graph and you're like, ooh, that was a little outside. Like, so I do get O'Hoppe's criticism for that call. I do understand. Yeah.
That's a big spot. That's a really big spot. They could win that game.
Yeah, I mean, a home run there wins the game for them.
Yeah.
So it is a big spot for them. But that's also one of those classic baseball terms, Stacey. A 2-strike count late in the game like that, you got to protect.
Yes.
Right. And you got to put a swing on a pitch like that if it's that close. But credit to Leiter, his curveball looked awesome. A lot of movement, real good 12-6 action on it. You got to swing at that, in my opinion. In that spot, you got to swing at that.
So this was a good stretch for the Yankees. Again, the opponents aren't barn beaters by any stretch of the imagination.
You still got to beat them.
You have to beat bad teams. You can't play down to your competition because the Yankees have had issues with that in the past. And
well said. And to your point last week, if the scheduling isn't as bad as it is with them finishing up their last series coming into Colorado, they're likely 6-0 on this road trip.
Right.
Crazy. It's a good point out of you though. I mean, they have a right to be pissed about the schedule. They do.
So they have the off day Thursday. They play the Dodgers Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We will have a preview of the Dodgers series on tomorrow's show, along with Fan Mail Friday, just so you guys know that we will do an in-depth, because, first rematch since the World Series. There's going to be a lot of hype about it. It's going to be really annoying, probably more annoying than the Subway Series, to be honest with you. Plus, it's out in LA. There's going to be national games played. It's just going to be...
National media-wise, it's going to be quite aggravating.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. So again, we will go in depth on that on Friday's show. Should be interesting. And the pitching matchups will be interesting too. At least we know we got Fried going in the series. But then again, with the way the starters have been pitching this entire stretch, dating back to the Texas series at home, I'm not that worried.
Yeah, no, and you can't expect anything less than excellence out of Fried with how good he's been. From a gambling perspective, all the lines are even. So I mean, they're expecting this to be very close games. They're expecting these two to play very evenly matched. I mean, their records are almost identical at this point. The Yankees are getting a huge advantage when it comes to starting pitching. A huge advantage. They're not facing a lot of great starters. Sunday they get Yamamoto, but other than that, the first 2 days are not great for the Dodgers. So Yankees get a huge break on that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up Oh, no, not coming up. Well, coming up, yeah, we're going to talk about Anthony Volpe. But first, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. I've noticed a couple of new insiders. Very excited about that. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. I send out the lineups every night, roster moves, breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. You just check the texts on your phone. There's a 14-day free trial. So like I said, coming up, we're going to take a dive into Anthony Volpe's numbers next.
Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, you can crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 8 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. And there's a variety of great flavors, including jalapeno lime, dill pickle, chili roasted, and smoky barbecue. And you can also get lightly salted or unsalted if your taste buds aren't quite ready for the bold flavors. Now, personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days on my schedule. And whether I'm snacking at my desk or on a road trip, or I just need that quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you like cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are also a classic favorite. And whether you're running in between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
There we go. We have a new way for you to leave questions for Fan Mail Friday on YouTube. If you go to our channel's page, you click on posts and you scroll down just a teeny bit, you'll see where I left the latest post for you to leave your questions. The deadline is 5 p.m. Thursday. So get those questions in as soon as you can.
I want to pull a comment out first. Chris R., driving home from Metallica in D.C., enjoying Locked On Yankees. I'm glad that we can be entertainment while driving home. I just saw Metallica over the weekend in Philadelphia, and it was awesome. So I hope you had half the amount of fun that I had at that concert, because their 2 nights in Philadelphia were great. And Stacey, if you could help me out. Oh, I couldn't get the comment gone. And I want to bring up one other comment too, because guys are having fun giving the comments out here. Pono Mo says DJ has been so much better this year. Just in a hitting slump is all. His defense has been amazing. I love that comment, and I love complimenting DJ LeMahieu because it's been hidden how good he's been. And I think it highlights how good the guy that I want to highlight has been this year. Anthony Volpe. He's had a tremendous year. And his basically I'm bringing that point up because of the pace that he's on, Stacey. And I feel like a lot of people that follow the team, cover the team, and it's no fault of their own, are not realizing how good Anthony Volpe has actually been and what his numbers are on pace for this year. He's got career highs in every major statistical category. And I feel like we're just not realizing it, or we're not giving him the credit, or it's just because his batting average isn't high enough. How do you feel about Anthony Volpe's season so far?
I feel like, well, he's very streaky, but he's always been streaky. I don't think he's more streaky this year than he's been in the past 2 seasons. It's just the way he plays. It just felt like for a couple of series there, it felt like anytime he came up with people on, like he was making decisions that you wouldn't want someone to make at the plate, but then he's made up for it in recent games, again, because he's so streaky. But I would like to pull up this. Can we pull up this graphic for everyone? Because it's so funny. To pull back the curtain, we know what we're going to talk about in segment 1. We know what we're going to do normally in segment 3, because it's usually recap the game, preview the game, and then segment 2, we come up with things to talk about. So Brian came up with the Volpe stuff, and then I noticed this from the Yankees librarian, otherwise known as Joe Randazzo, on Instagram. He happened to post this graphic comparing Volpe to Juan Soto and how they're doing this year. And when you put his numbers up next to what Juan Soto is doing, they look pretty good. Right?
Yeah, it hasn't been great for Soto's, that's for sure.
Right. It's I didn't realize how low his average was. I didn't know just how bad it had been for him. So looking at some of these numbers, I mean, it's probably not going to stay this way the entire year, but I did the MLB squad show with a bunch of other hosts that'll be up. You'll see that in our feed at noon on Thursday. And they were talking about the first third of the season. We're through the first third. We're past Memorial Day. And from Memorial Day and 2 months on, it's the second third. So at this point, you got to start thinking about, okay, Juan Soto might be having a bad year because we're a third into the season already and he's not improving that much. And then when you look at Volpe, the only thing that's not great is the batting average. But when you look at the rest of the league, it's not that bad at 245.
It's league average, which
Yeah.
I know if you're an older fan, it would surprise you that's league average because you think of 245 as a bad average. That's what guys hit nowadays.
My
It just
dad,
is.
if my dad were still alive, he would be like, what? He would not
Yeah.
like this at all.
You know, I actually don't blame him. I have a little old school attitude when it comes to that too. But, you know, the thing that I think is just to add on one more to the Juan Soto thing, the thing that weirds me out, though, is the frustration Mets fans have. His slugging percentage is 401, that he's not providing a lot of power. I just want to, I may be being condescending here, but I think it needs to be said. Juan Soto is not a power hitter.
No.
He never has been. He's an average hitter, and he certainly gets on base a lot, and he will give you power here and there. But Juan Soto is not a 40, 50 home run guy. He can hit 40 home runs in Yankee Stadium with the short porch, but
And
he's
with
not a
Aaron
40 home run
Judge
guy.
helping him too,
Yeah.
like he said.
So let's just acknowledge that. I wouldn't be, if you're a Mets fan and you're bothered about Juan Soto's power not being there, that's what he is. His power numbers are what he is. Anthony Volpe is currently hitting 245. Again, a lot of people aren't going to be happy with that. But there's 6 homers and 33 RBIs actually added on now after the sac fly that he had in the Angels game. 326 on base percentage, and that's key because we always talk about, Stacey, how his on base has needed to be higher for his average to be low. 326 will work for me. That average will work. It's improved a ton since early in the year, especially. Also, a 765 OPS. That's huge. That's higher than any of the numbers that he finished with the last 2 years. In fact, 765 is his OPS, Stacey. He didn't finish above 700 OPS in the last 2 seasons. So that's a major improvement overall for Anthony Volpe. And I want to mention, the feeling around the fan base has been that Anthony Volpe's been a little underwhelming this year. Am I wrong?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I talked about it on the show.
But yet you look at these numbers and you look at what he's on pace for, and, you know, he really, if you get this at the end of the year, let's just ask the question this way. If the season finishes late September and you see these numbers on Anthony Volpe, you see 250, 20 homers, 90 RBIs. You're taking that, right?
Yes.
You're thinking he had an awesome year. That's the pace that he's on for right now. So when you think of it in those terms of what he's given you in the first third, I think, plus, not to mention, Gold Glove always, but bordering on platinum level defense, because he's had a great year defensively. He's going to be in contention for the Gold Glove again this year. Also, for the nerds out there that are listening, if one of the 70 live listeners right now are nerdy and love advanced analytics, get ready for this one, Stacey.
And he means that with love, by the way.
Of course, absolutely not a negative connotation whatsoever.
Yes.
He's got his barrel rate this year so far is 13.8%. That's higher than 2023 and 2024 combined. So he's really, the torpedo bat's really clearly working for him. He's got the highest exit velo of his career. Currently, it's 90.3. His career is 87, which may not seem like a huge jump, but for exit velo statistics, that actually is a really big jump, going up 3 miles per hour. Also, his OPS plus right now is 117, which is a really good OPS plus. The last 2 seasons, he finished with 87 and 81. So, I mean, when you look at the advanced stats, he's really, really improved.
Yeah.
And let's just mention, too, he's currently 24 years old.
Right.
So
He's
there's
still
a lot of
really
room
young.
to improve. Exactly. A lot of guys aren't even in the major leagues at this point in their career. So there's still room to improve. And I know if you're an old school fan, you're not necessarily too happy with the stats that they look at, especially with on base percentage and batting average. You're not necessarily totally happy. But Stacey, if he gives you these numbers at the end of the year and his numbers look somewhat identical to this, how could you not be thrilled with what you've gotten out of Anthony Volpe? to become a 90 RBI, 20 home run, and maybe he's not Bobby Witt Jr. And that's fine. You know, I
Not many people are.
no, exactly. And the Yankees wanted to hold on to him, and were they a little too desperate? Maybe. Did they hold on to him a little too tightly? Probably. Did they hug him a little too tightly? More than likely, yeah. Because he's not Bobby Witt Jr., and they were hoping he'd become that. But if he gives you platinum level defense, 250 hitting, 20 homers, 90 RBIs, and the advanced stats look the way they do, I'm sorry. That's a starting shortstop in the major leagues, especially with his fielding. I like what I've seen, and I think, you know, we just, as Yankee fans, need to give him a little more leeway and trust him a little more, because when you look at the stats after the first third, I know he's streaky, but he's been really solid for them.
Yep, I would agree with that. All right, coming up next, we're going to look at the Yankees all-quarter century team as decided on by The Athletic in a moment. I hit the wrong button.
I wish it was over.
We're tired.
We are.
This is three live streams after midnight in a row, and
it's 1 a.m.
We're so tired. We're so sorry. We're
last
loopy.
one.
Yeah,
last
we're loopy.
one.
Yeah, we're loopy and tired. So the Athletics did an all-quarter century team because we're 25 years into this century, which I really, you know, the 28th, May 28th. Let's quickly talk about this because I forgot to talk about it on yesterday's show. May 28th, 2000, Yankees Red Sox, Pedro Martinez against Roger Clemens. They both pitched complete games. It was a Sunday night ESPN game, and the difference in the game was a 2-run home run by Trot Nixon in the top of the ninth, and the Red Sox won that game. I was at that game 25 years ago last night, or this night, right? Because into the 29th. And then on the 29th, after I drank my face off after watching that game, because the bar that I frequented was open till 4 a.m. So I was out till 4 a.m. I quickly turned around, went back down to Yankee Stadium for the Memorial Day game because it was a Sunday into a Monday. They were playing the A's. I didn't really like being on the 4 train. I didn't like the smell of hot dogs. It was not a fun time. And I watched Randy Velarde turn an unassisted triple play against the Yankees. But the Yankees actually won that Memorial Day game, and Andy Pettitte, who's the pitcher I've seen the most ever, got the win. So 25 years ago. That is just crazy to me.
As God intended. Baseball on Memorial Day, smelly hot dogs, and Trot Nixon home runs. Can't beat it.
So the all-quarter century Yankees team is not surprising in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't think there's anyone on here where you'd say, what the hell are they thinking? So here is the team in case you didn't see it, because I know not everyone is subscribed to The Athletic, but here you go. Posada catcher, Tex, Cano, Jeter, Rodriguez, Gardner, Bernie Williams, Aaron Judge. So basically, and Hideki Matsui is the DH. So basically the 2009 team plus Aaron Judge and Bernie Williams. Starting rotation, CeCe, Moose, Pettitte, Cole, Clemens, setup man Dellin Betances, and obviously the closer is Mariano Rivera. Are there any choices that you're kind of like?
The Betances one, I think I'm a little like, I mean, he was really good for the period that he was there, but it wasn't super long. Right. When you look back at Dellin Betances' career, I liked Betances' career, and I think that what he was able to offer, that curveball combined with throwing like 102, he was unhittable for a while, and especially with being that tall. I mean, he was unhittable for a while, but it wasn't that long, Stacey. I mean, how long was Dellin Betances' Yankee tenure? 4 or 5 years, if that. It wasn't that long. Andrew Miller could have been added to the bullpen here. Like, there were bullpen pieces that were definitely addable in this spot. So, but I don't have a huge problem with it. Obviously, Rivera. The starting rotation, interesting. Musina, I feel like, gets placed in there because of the Hall of Fame candidacy, which is worthy, and he had good years for the Yankees. Pettitte is an obvious one. Garrett Cole, obvious one. Roger Clemens, interesting, but yeah, he pitched in big games to the Yankees. I have no problem with that. And it's true. The infield is basically the team, to be honest with you, is the 2009 to 12 Yankees is pretty much the team that's out there.
Yeah, minus Bernie and
Yeah,
Judge, but like that infield. That infield.
ridiculous. Ridiculous. And it was so good. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
But when you look at that infield and, obviously Yankee fans were upset with the fact they let Robinson Cano walk when he got that giant amount of money from Seattle. But let's acknowledge how much money was tied into the infield at that point. When he became a free agent, I don't think the Yankees wanted Cano to walk. I think they wanted to keep him for the right price, honestly. And I think when you look at the amount of money in that infield, what were you going to pay that infield?
Right.
I mean, were you going to have $100 million infield? Because that's probably what it would have took. I mean, there was just so much money locked into that infield at that point. I think the Yankees had their number. They stuck to it. Robinson Cano got more than that. And you know what? Both sides got lucky there. Cano wound up getting the money, and the Yankees got, lucky to not deal with that steroid burden that they've been placed on. For all their players, like you would think the Yankees hand out steroids for free.
They've had enough issues with that.
Exactly. So they dodged a bullet on that one, and
Yeah.
Cano really didn't finish up the contract very well. But yeah, what an absurd infield that was.
Honestly, it's just so funny. And you agree with the Brett Gardner pick? Because I do, because he was solid for the entire time that he was there. He's basically one of the only left fielders in the last few years
Consistent.
that stuck, right? So I actually do agree with that pick.
The only thing that you could have done is put Matsui there, and because he did play left field, at least during the injury, and you could have put Stanton at DH. That's what you could have wound up doing, because Stanton's had some big moments, got a 40 home run season in there, had some really high plus the playoff performances out of Stanton. Like, you didn't get that out of Gardner. You got that out of Giancarlo Stanton. You could have put Matsui there in left field and Stanton to the DH. But Brett Gardner played awesome defense. He really did. And, like, a really, not a Hall of Famer, but a really nice Yankee, if I can put it that way. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful tone whatsoever, but that's what he is. He's a really, really nice Yankee.
Yeah. I saw him get his first walk-off July 6th, 2008 against the Red Sox. It was just a single, but it was against the Red Sox. It was a Sunday night ESPN game. It was off Jonathan Papelbon. And I was like, who's this guy? Because he literally was called up June 30th, and he got his first walk-off hit on July 6th of that year.
Yeah, it became a scrappy player, too, for the Yankees. Other than that 1 year where he had the crazy power numbers, really wasn't a power hitter. Had speed, but didn't steal a ton of bases. Just found a way to get on base and impact the game that way. And his fielding, again, was excellent. A really, really tremendous fielder. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he came up as a center fielder. I think he played a lot of center field when he first came up.
Yeah, he was more there.
And then it wound up being, left for the majority of time. I liked his career. I did. I think he kind of finished off on a sour note because he wanted to keep playing, and the Yankees said no, thank you. But you know what? Like, I think I made this point when this happened with Gardner. This is what good organizations do, Stacey. Like, good organizations know when to move on, and they know not to let players hang around for legacy and move on when it's the right time. They thought Brett Gardner's about a year or two away from being done. It turns out they were more than right, and he basically just retired because he basically said, "I'm not going to play for the Yankees. I'm not going to play for anybody."
Right,
which is commendable.
That would have been so weird.
He got offers too, I think.
That would have been so weird to see him with anyone else because he was with them for so long. I mean, think about that. He came up in 2008, and his last season was it 21?
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he got an offer from Toronto after that year to go play there.
Oh, yeah, I think so. That sounds familiar. Yeah, that would have been
very odd.
Really, really crazy. And isn't it interesting that Brett Gardner and Willie Randolph are both from the same small town in South Carolina?
That is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
I can't remember the name of it. I know there's a Holly in there, right? I can't think of it right now, but they're both from the same place.
I know there's that story that Brett Gardner drove there in complete silence in his car once after Yankee.
Oh yeah, because he didn't but he didn't like listening to the radio in the car regularly. He wasn't a radio person, so he would like his walk-up songs. He would just pick songs because he didn't listen to things in the car.
Pure silence is a little crazy, but you know what?
Bernie Williams used to come up to silence.
No, but driving to North Carolina or South Carolina. in pure silence is
Yeah, I would
a
say that's
skill.
odd.
It's a skill I would not like to acquire.
That's a long trip.
Yeah.
I've made that trip more than a few times, and I couldn't imagine doing it silently.
No. Again, a skill I would not like to acquire.
No, definitely not. All right, so this is the last late night of our West Coast trip, I guess.
Good.
Their West Coast trip and us staying up to watch them play on the West Coast and then do the live stream. So we thank you all for joining us. There's 73 people in here right now. It's 1:11 a.m. So thank you all so much for supporting us. We appreciate you guys. It's unbelievable. And thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hold on. Someone just said, North and South Carolina have this obscure rule about using the phone even on the BT behind the wheel of a car. I'm sure he had that in mind while doing it.
I find that very hard to believe. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you can use Apple CarPlay in today's era. So he probably can't touch the phone, but I also, with Brett Gardner being the old school guy that he is, I highly doubt he had that in mind.
Right. But I just can't imagine being in a car with silence because I don't really drive, but I've been on long trips and that would be the worst. You're a music person, so you understand what that's like.
Yeah. Not doing it. Not doing a long road trip without music.
So that'll do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys for Fan Mail Friday tomorrow.